Well, Cannes is getting lined up for the film festival next week, and the streets are getting crowded, the beaches are getting built up with tents and special screening facilities. It's all very bizarre every year at the Cannes Film Festival.
I've really got to hate air travel, and the flight out here was a nightmare. Well, it wasn't a nightmare. The flight itself was actually fairly easy, but the airport was so horrible. They make you take off your shoes, and they're rude, and they unpack your bags, and you finally get, after walking for miles, to the stupid lounge, which is dreadful and full of awful fat English travellers with shorts and white legs on.
And this is me in holiday garb, looking rather colourful, I'm sure you'll agree.
The size of that ship. I hate these bloody houses on the ocean. Anyway, as I left England, everybody was getting prepared for the Eurovision Song Contest.
Of course, the problem with Eurovision this year, as for several years, is there wasn't actually a real hit in there. Now, what do I mean by real hit? I mean a song and a track that has mass appeal. The last two big hits I had, that I was connected with rather, were at the end of the last century, back in the year 1999-2000, with Who Let the Dogs Out and I Get Knocked Down But I Get Up Again. Both of them sold 16 million copies on vinyl or CD or cassette or whatever they had those days. These were the days before downloads and streaming, of course. But they were crossover hits. Everybody loved them, from grandparents to children, right the way across the spectrum. Rap fans, rock fans, heavy metal fans, country and western fans, classical fans. Not everyone, of course, but people in all those groups sang along with them and liked them. Now, those are the kinds of songs that ought to be into Eurovision. I think my best Eurovision entry was Ooh, Ah, Just a Little Bit by Gina G, but it didn't do that great because she wasn't a terrific performer. And the year afterwards, we did win as the UK, the BBC, with Katrina and the Waves doing Love Shine a Light. All of these were mass appeal tracks. But there was really nothing in the show until the interval, when all the acts had finished performing, all the country entries had finished performing, and on came past winners doing certain tracks that were big past hits, especially connected with Liverpool. Basically British, but big smash hit songs. And suddenly you realise what real hits were all about. That's the tragedy about Eurovision this year, and no wonder it wasn't certain who was going to win. The one I really liked, by the way, was Italy. I also liked Austria going Po, 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 Po. A song about Edgar Allan Poe is quite an interesting idea, and I actually thought our British entry was pretty good, but none of them were real hits. And that's why none of them won. And the one that did win, by Loreen, was Tattoo, and was like her earlier hit, Euphoria, which was a mass appeal hit and was globally huge around the world. But Tattoo is just another winner, but it's not going to do great anyway.
I saw you walking round the corner, and I reckoned I'd like to get to know you. But my feet wouldn't walk, and my soul is so shy that my voice couldn't talk, so my mind had to cry. Mary, my love, Mary, my love, with your long, long hair and your skin so fair, I never have believed you'd be standing there. Mary, my love, Mary, my love, you're a fine lady and it's plain to see I never have a chance of you loving me. Oh no, oh no, I saw you walk into the sunlight, and I felt nothing ever could work out right. Couldn't beg you to stay, with a tear in my eye, stumbled back on my way, but my mind had to cry. Mary, my love, Mary, my love, with your long blonde hair and your skin so fair, I never have believed you'd be standing there. Mary, my love, Mary, my love, you're a fine lady and it's plain to see I never have a chance of you loving me. Oh no, oh no, Mary, Mary, I walked around the corner, Mary, Mary, and there you were. You came up to me, hello, you said, you must have heard the screaming inside my head. Mary, my love, Mary, my love, with your long, long hair and your skin so fair, I never have believed you'd be standing there. Mary, my love, Mary, my love, you're a fine lady and it's plain to see I'm standing every chance of you loving me. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I've touched on it before, why records aren't great crossover mass appeal hits anymore, and I've blamed a lot on the executives in the music industry, be it record labels, publishers or whatever, who really don't have a clue and have allowed, since Napster, remember Napster, have allowed the music industry to slip slowly into this sort of specialisation area where people only love one kind of music, will buy quite a lot of not very good tracks in that genre, be it hip-hop or garage or heavy metal or whatever, but actually aren't interested in listening to or liking music that's not in that genre. But it's more than that that's responsible, and I blame the new technology, which in many ways is wonderful, but it does mean you can write and create and compose and finish your records in the bedroom without consulting anybody else, using your own little computer and your own tricks and your own online applications, and then you can release it. Well, the result of that is great in that means anybody can put anything out. But I have to tell you that most great mass appeal records actually are mass appeal because they're the combination of an awful lot of people being involved. So you will have producers, arrangers, engineers in the studios, promotion men, marketing people, executives in the record companies and the labels, publishers who will say, no, that middle eight doesn't work, and why don't you change the lyric of that second verse, and things like that, all of which are perhaps only tweaks, but which make the tracks great mass appeal 16 million sellers, as opposed to ones that are not too bad and appeal to fans of that genre of music, but no one outside it. That, I think, is why music has become so unimportant to most people in 2023.
Voilà le Miramar. Alors, c'était un grand hôtel.
Enjoying the sunshine in the south of France on the beach at the Carlton. The Carlton Hotel has been refurbished. It's been being done up for the last 4 years, and I've only been able to grace the beach where they have the most fantastic restaurant and fabulous food. But now it's open again and it's looking fabulous, I have to say. And I've chosen my specific table nice and close to an electricity socket so I can charge up my laptop for recording all my future videos in the south of France, and also for recording all the writing I'm doing on my laptop. It's good that the Carlton is back again, open, refurbished and ready for business.
I was minding my own business on the Manchester Express train when an old man came and sat down who was obviously insane. He was talking to himself in a very funny way, and all the other people, one by one, decided not to stay, till eventually just he and I were sitting all alone, 'cause I was interested in what he had to say, when on his own he said, "What's it all about? I often wonder. And why on earth is everybody here? Sometimes pressure is enough to drive me under. And like everyone, I'm so afraid of fear. All the world is getting harder. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man." The conductor came for tickets, but he didn't stay too long. In fact, he swung around and went out when he realized what was wrong. Then the geezer coughed and wheezed a bit, complained about the cold, suggested putting on his overcoat, and mourned he's getting old. Soon he paused in his soliloquy. He paused and scratched his head, then, assured of total privacy, addressed himself and said, "What's it all about? I often wonder. And why on earth is everybody here? Sometimes pressure is enough to drive me under. And like everyone, I'm so afraid of fear. All the world is getting harder. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man." There's a difference between closing eyes and letting out a sigh, and I knew with sudden certainty the man was going to die. I rushed out into the corridor, and I fell from side to side as I ran to the conductor with his big mouth gaping wide. Well, between us we both laid him down and tried to rest his head, but by the time we got to Manchester, the poor old man was dead. What's it all about? I often wonder. And why on earth is everybody here? Sometimes pressure is enough to drive me under. And
like everyone, I'm so afraid of fear. All the world is getting hotter. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man. All the world is getting hotter. Oh, it's much too much to stand. That's why I'm such a very, very melancholy man.
Prince Harry seems to be a very, very melancholy man at the moment, suing the tabloids and all the other newspapers, being chased by paparazzi all over the world. I have to say, I'm on the side of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. I know how the media works. I'm absolutely certain it was the paparazzi chasing his mother's car that caused her death. I'm absolutely certain that they were tapping phones all the way through the 80s and 90s. I'm absolutely sure whether or not they did it blatantly and openly, it was a way of gathering information for the newspapers. Remember, I was there. I wrote a column in The Sun, a full page every week for about 10 years, and very successful it was too. So I saw how the media worked in that era, and a good story was all that mattered. As long as they got a good story, preferably a great story, about members of the royal family or any celebrities or anything else, they got it. And they got it by usually paying middlemen to take on people who would tap phones and go through emptying bins outside houses and taking photographs with long angled lenses and all the rest of it. And I hate the way that Harry and Meghan have been destroyed by the media, mainly because Meghan dared sue a newspaper and win, which is an unforgivable crime. So I'm sorry, I'm on their side and not on the majority opinion side.
This is my holiday home in the south of France, where I tend to relax for months on end.